I'm live, y'all. Hashtag X_7 studios, hashtag mixing live, hashtag vibe.
So if you don't know who this is Ken Lewis. He's pretty well-known mix engineer. He always has good tips, tricks, and just advice with mixing. So I'm gonna watch him for about a half hour. It's only a 7-minute video, so I guess I'm gonna just watch this video and that's.
Today I'm going to show you the 3 easiest ways to ruin your mix quickly and how to fix it.
I don't know why I have to have this open.
I can tell you, I get rough mixes and sessions in from all over the world, and the main 3 things that I hear that are big problems in rough mixes and finals, I'm going to break down for you right now. But first, please like and subscribe the channel, and let's dive in. Number 1, overcompressing your mix bus. Okay, so here's how easy it is to overcompress the mix bus. I have this song set up right now. It's Vonnie Hype Main, and it's got a heavy 808 to it. I've already got the mix dialed in to mastered level. Anything above this is just too loud. You know, you can go a little bit louder. There's a range that's acceptable, but I'm already at the upper end of loud for that range. Pushing it any further is going to be too much, and it's going to start to distort your mix. Let me show you the effect that that has. All night, man. In the club, yeah, you know me, I'm the hype, man. Okay, so we started at an RMS of about -8, which is mastered loud for hip hop. You know, -8, -7 would be acceptable. But I've pushed up 4 dB on the gain on the master on FGX, and already I'm at -5 RMS and I'm distorting very noticeably, especially on the sub frequencies. And that's a pretty small change in mixland. So, you know, you've got to be really careful about these subtle things that you're doing, or, you know, not so subtle things. It's not necessarily a badge of honor for your song to be louder than the Drake song. Drake's songs are plenty loud enough. That's a great target. You want to be able to have your song sit on a playlist so that, like, Posty comes on, your song comes on, Drake comes on, and it sounds consistent. You don't stand out above them, because too loud and distorted is not going to be a good look next to Drake, I assure you. Let me show you what even more distorted sounds like. All night, man. In the club, yeah, you know me, I'm the hype, man. All night, man. I mean, that's only at +8, and just, it's already so nasty. And here's the other way that you can make this exact same mistake just by turning up the 808 itself too loud, not even the mix bus. So I'm going to bypass this so you can still see the meter. Now listen to the distortion that comes in as I turn the 808 up. All night, man. In the club, yeah, you know me, I'm the hype, man. All night, man. In the club, yeah, you know me, I'm the hype, man. I mean, it's great, all that bass. You know, in the moment on your own song, it sounds like big and fat bottom end and super energetic, but nobody wants all that distortion, and nobody wants your song to be the song that's so loud in their headphones that they need to turn it down. So you see just how easy it is to ruin your mix by turning up too loud or adding too much low end. Number 2, over de-essing the lead vocal. So I've got this Lazarus song, Sacred Circles, queued up for you. Lead vocal, I've got no de-essing on right now. I've just got compression, and you can hear those S's and T's really cut through the top of the mix. They're not too bad right now, but they definitely need a little bit of de-essing. So I'm going to let you hear them with no de-essing, then I'm going to de-ess them properly, then I'm going to ruin the mix with them. Here we go.
It's in the DNA, inside your veins, the fruits of life, it must remain.
All of those S's and T's just really cut through nicely. I just want to knock them back a little bit so they're a bit more in perspective, but I don't want to knock them back so much that they start disappearing.
It's in the DNA, inside your veins, the fruits of life, it must remain. Key to all the things that are.
That sounds pretty good right there at -27 on the threshold. The threshold is going to be dependent on wherever your particular vocal is. That's not necessarily where you should set your threshold. So this sounds pretty good. He sounds natural. The S's are there. They're audible, but they're not ripping my head off. But now, let me ruin the mix for you very quickly, simply by turning the threshold slider down. And you can start to hear how the S's just completely disappear from the mix until I move the slider back up and the S's come back up and he stops lisping. So anytime you hear your own vocals sounding a little bit too lispy, you're probably pulling the threshold down on your de-esser too far. Let me show you what that sounds like.
It's in the DNA inside your veins, the fruits of life. It must remain key to all the things that are. It's in the DNA inside your veins, the fruits of life. It must remain.
It's gone now, and I'm just at 10 dB down. So you see how quickly you can go from great to ruined just by moving one control a few dB. You got to be really careful, and you always got to use your ears. So if your lead vocal is starting to sound a little bit lispy, the first thing to look for is that over de-esser. Number 3, using way too many plugins. You know who you are. I've done it too. Everybody does this. Trust me, you do not need a channel strip on every channel, or an EQ and compressor, or a tape sim on every channel. Hey, if it works for you, I'm not telling you not to do that. What I am telling you is I don't know a single professional who starts that way. I certainly don't. I start with a clean slate, no plugins on anything. And if you see this finished mix from Lazarus Sacred Circles, you can tell here's all of my drums, bass, all of my music. I'm very light on the plugins on the entire session until I get to the vocals. Then I'm starting to load up a bit more on vocal plugins because, you know, vocals are really hard to mix. You got to blend them into a really dense song. But the only thing that I have plugins on my session when I start is usually a few effects. You know, I'll have a few reverbs and delays set up on aux sends already, things that might inspire me while I'm mixing. But for the most part, my plugin menu is empty, and I allow the song to tell me what plugins I should add. I don't add a plugin until I hear something that's like, oh, I need to compress that. I need, you know, that needs a little bit of range limiting, or I need to brighten that up, or I let the song tell me when to use the plugins. I don't just use them randomly, or I don't use them every single time for every channel. You definitely don't need to. If you see the pros mix, most of the pros have very empty mixes. It's mostly about finding great balances, finding those great moods that really connect with you, and then doing a little carving with plugins, a little brightening here, a little compression there, and then, you know, you can dig into your vocals, but don't do too much and don't overthink it. Let the music tell you. So these have been the 3 ways you can quickly ruin your mix. Hopefully I've given you some great tips on how to avoid those and fix these problems when you hear them. This is Ken Lewis from Mixing Night. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it, and I will see you on the next video.
I'm going live all night, man. In the club, yeah, you know me, I'm the hype.